and I'm going to quote, this is Peter Zeihan. I don't know if you've come across his work, but he does a lot of studies in demographics, and he has a recent book out that's a really interesting read. It's a lot to do with what's going on with demographics and the change in the economy and the reshoring manufacturing. But he said that the Gen Z, if you think about it, is whereas the millennials were like Harry Potter, right? We were collaborative. We were flying high around with our brooms and with our buddies, solving problems and doing cool stuff. The Gen Z is more like the Hunger Games. It's a survival type scenario where you want the best for yourself, and you're not willing to collaborate with others to get that end result.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the CM Mentors Podcast. My name is Matt Graves. My coach each week is Kyle Grandell. What's up, Kyle?
Hey, Matt. I'm doing all right today. It's been quite a week, man. How about you?
It's good, man. You got a jacket on. It must be colder up north.
You know what? I'm really actually kind of embarrassed to admit this. It's about 70 degrees out, and I'm wearing a freaking jacket. I'm from Minnesota, but I must have lost it, man.
We're down in the 90s here today, and we've got a job trailer still blowing like it's 105, so it's a little chilly. But anyway, I won't wear a jacket. I'll be okay. Anyway, this week's guest is Evan Oates. What's going on, Evan?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Speaking about temperature, we finally broke the record 100-day heat here, so we won't be busting out our jackets for probably another 6 months, and you really don't even need them. So, we don't need them in Phoenix.
But, yeah, I was going to say, you're in Phoenix, aren't you?
We have summer and second summer, we call it.
You get that desert cold, don't you, in the wintertime?
It does. We'll have some nice 40s. I don't know. People get all bundled up and worried, but nothing.
Man, when I was out in California, out by LA, or just east of LA, kind of out there in the desert one time, and it was 100 degrees during the day, and at nighttime it got cold. But anyway, I'm kind of soft when it comes to that. It was probably 40s.
Hold on, really quick before we leave the weather thing. Which one of you had the hotter temperatures this year?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably about a tie.
Yeah, I don't. We hit a record this year? I know, 60 days over 100 or something like that.
Houston hit. I think they broke it twice. They broke the hottest temperature in recorded history. Not like hottest day on the day, but it was the hottest recorded temperature in Houston for a day in recorded history, whichever, like 100 years, 120 years, whatever they're recording. So anyway, it was fun, miserable, awful.
With 100% humidity, I'm sure.
It was 90% humidity, hottest day ever. No rain though, and it was just fun.
Jeez,
it was brutal, man. We actually had a storm roll in on Labor Day, and I was outside tending my dead grass, and it started raining, and I just stood in the rain for 5 or 7 minutes, and it's better to be wet from the rain than the sweat. So
yeah, I
just stood there and enjoyed it. But anyway, Evan, for everybody who doesn't know you, other than being an amateur meteorologist, you want to give a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. I think the easiest job in the world should be a meteorologist here in Phoenix, right? But
San Diego is probably first, and then maybe Phoenix.
So probably much like you guys and most of the audience, I came up in a project engineer position after going to school for construction management, and I've been doing that role and that rodeo for about 20 years, from project engineer to project manager, and now vice president of what I'll like to call a 3-year-old startup going on our 8th year here in Phoenix, Arizona. Our specialty is in the multifamily world. So that's certainly presenting some challenges for a startup with the new financial environment, but nonetheless, there's still plenty of opportunity to grow and continue our trade. Being a small company, we rely a lot on interns and young adults, and really trying to mentor and foster those relationships and get those kids out to the job site as quick as possible. You guys know, these are 24, 26, 30-month rodeos, and it's an endurance race. So if you don't have youth on your team, it's going to burn folks out. But that's what we like to see ourselves doing, and that's kind of our niche and our vision. And it's been an exciting ride.
Well, awesome. So first of all, congratulations on 8 years. That's a great feat. That's something to be proud of, man. Really.
Thank you.
Doesn't that put you, we talked about this the other day. Doesn't that put you like the 1% of all businesses once you make like 7 or 8 years, like that?
No, it's a big deal. And did you have any years that you remember that were maybe the most difficult? And if you do, why?
Sure. So that I was clarifying. So we are going in. We are a 3-year-old company, but I was going into our 8th year, right? But the last 12 months has certainly been challenging with the financial environment. I mean, rents blasted off in 2020 to about 25%. Increase. Now rents are subsiding a little bit. It's a supply and demand that's going on in the market. So that's certainly been a challenge for us. We're part of our business looks at LIHTC tax credit work and HUD finance work as well. So keeps a good mix of your third-party developers. But I would say this last year has been just as challenging for a construction business as probably what 2007, 2008, 2009 was for businesses back then. Certainly.
Wow. So one of the reasons I want to bring you on here was you were talking about kind of the youth on your team and stuff. Is we talked a couple of times, I think 1 or twice. Anyway, about your internship program you guys are doing, and definitely wanted to come on and kind of talk about the construction industry. Kyle's sneaking drinks over there. The construction industry and kind of how it's all adapting to Gen Z and the next generation kind of coming up. So, you want to give a little bit of explanation of what y'all are doing with your internship program?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the intern program is something near and dear to my heart, something I'm passionate about. So as a small company, I mean, we bring in a handful of interns we have on staff now. And really it's to get them exposed to the business, at least 2 to 3 years before they're ready to take a full-time position. So when they're ready for a full-time position, they can be on a job site and be productive day one. That's my goal. I tell them all the time exactly what we want to get you exposed to while you're here in an internship type role. But again, the end game is to make them successful on a job site for 10 hours a day, 5-6 days a week when they do come on full time with us. So everything kind of guides to that. Over the summer, we've done programs like Study the Lean Builder book. We'll meet every Friday and go through a chapter and fake pull plan sessions. We've done job site visits, and even to other general contractors. People I know, we'll go visit other job sites of different product types and different market segments rather than what just we do on the multifamily front. We'll do that. We also have what I call EOS University, just small, maybe quarterly segments of an hour lecture and then an hour of an application type time frame, so they can learn core principles. For instance, pay applications. We'll go through what AA documents do you use on pay applications. What's the theory behind the monthly draw? How is the monthly draw distributed to subs? What are lien waivers do, and how are they collected, and what are they for? And then we'll go and we'll practice progressing a pay app over 1 or 2 months, and they can kind of see the progressing and the documents required by banks to submit every month, and how to prepare for those throughout the month. So it's really, and I've put together a whole checklist that I sit with each of the interns, and every piece of the business from a punch list to a closeout. Some point, get exposed to that so it's not new to you when you're on full time and you get out to the job sites. So it's really about an introduction at this point. I don't expect them to master any of the skills, but I want to make sure that they've seen, heard, touched, felt kind of every piece of what we do as a young project engineer on a job site, at least before they're out there full time with us. So that's
really good stuff, because like most internship programs, they usually throw the intern on either walking off punch list. It depends where they show up in the project, right? If they're a summer intern, they could just be there in the punch list and they're just going to check punch list items off, or they're, just processing submittals or just pushing RFIs back and forth. And they learn one little piece of the overall puzzle. So, I mean, I love that you're getting them exposure to everything and giving them a little bit of a deeper dive in everything too. That's so awesome.
And it kind of varies by the intern, how much, I always tell them, I'll give you as much as you want, as much as you can safely handle. Mm-hmm. And it depends. I've had, interns that have been with us a couple months take on a very complicated pay app process and be very successful at it. Their biggest challenge, I kid you not, is picking up a telephone and calling somebody. It is it is our biggest battle, is to script out, how to call a sub and look for a proposal on an upcoming project, and do that repeatedly throughout the day. That's probably my number one time I spend the most time and energy on is what I'll call the softer skills of construction, right?
We can't just text the sub and ask for a proposal.
Sometimes you can. That does work, but usually only after you have some sort of first name relationship with them. Right? Yeah.
Hey, so Evan, my first burning questions are: where are you finding your people from? And then, secondly, are you having any trouble attracting people to the trades and attracting them to construction? I mean, what's it like out there right now for the younger generations? Are you having trouble getting the interest?
Sure. Great question. So this is something that I've spent a bunch of time studying, especially with the business we anticipate, growing further staff year over year, is we don't have a robust young workforce coming at us. Most of the data I'm seeing is that we have a declining workforce until something like 2046. We won't see a positive curve on more labor. So the real challenge for any business, but specifically to construction, is how do you find and attract, kids out of college or kids in college to take on a career in construction management. So a lot of the stuff we do revolves around being a part of the construction management programs, like at your local university, or maybe there's a community college with a construction tech program, is somehow getting in with that. I've attended numerous kind of what I'll call Q&A sessions with the project manager, just to meet college kids that have questions about the field and a career. It's really getting out, meeting them where they are in their school experience, and then kind of following up in a digital process. I'll develop a digital LinkedIn relationship with a lot of kids before an event or after an event. And, they'll be looking for an internship and reach out, or we'll be ready to take another one on. And I kind of have, somebody ready that I've developed at least a preliminary relationship with somebody, and that I know they're interested in a role in construction management. So it is a lot of work. It's follow up in a digital presence, and then participating in on-campus events.
Is enrollment down in construction management programs in colleges, or what?
I don't know that. I do know specifically with Gen Z, which is the kids, you're seeing come out of college now. Although enrollment seems high, there is actually less Gen Zers seeking an undergraduate degree than probably our generation, the Millennials. And you have to understand, there's also 30% less overall Gen Zs than Millennials, just quantity wise, just talking numbers. So it's kind of less across the board. So whereas maybe, we had a glut of millennial workers, which is what I'll call our generation. Now, if you take 30% of those, subtract them, what's coming up next is just going to be maybe more competitive to attract your company, or more competitive to attract to the industry in its whole. How do we get, actually the industry that has it the worst is accounting, from what I understand. There's just no kids that want to go into accounting.
I don't blame them.
So, right?
It's not interesting. Why would you?
At least we don't have that problem.
I mean, as a construction manager, project manager, you got to do a fair bit of accounting, and that's like my probably least favorite part of my job. But
we actually had an EOS University session with a friend of mine that's a CPA, and he came in and did a lecture on basic balance sheet, cash flow type equations, and what does an accountant do, and everybody looked at me afterwards. They goes, how does that guy do that all day? I'm just laughing. I'm going, I don't know.
Yeah. Lots of that probably.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess it was advertising for the Mad Men generation. It's probably all advertising, but I imagine every accountant's office in the 50s had their bourbon on the shelf or their whiskey on the shelf. Like, long days of staring at numbers.
You can imagine.
They didn't have Excel like we did either.
No.
True.
No.
So you were saying you guys are like, you get them ready for day one through your internship program. So by day one, they can hit the ground running. Do you guys, I guess two parts to this question is, one, are you getting field experience of like how the build, I mean, you kind of talked about like kind of the project management side of stuff and how pay apps come together, all those sort of things. But are you getting like actual kind of, we'll call it like building science experience, like field engineering experience for one? And then two, what does day one look like for somebody coming out for you guys?
Yeah, great question. Certainly, I'll have them. The goal is to spend as much time we can be in the field and be productive. I don't want to just write daily reports. We don't want to pick up trash.
Right.
We don't want to sweep out the trailer. We do want to be productive. So if a mode on the job site is productive, we can get you involved in, let's say, a punch process. That's something you can plug and play pretty simply. I can introduce you to, electronic submission of submittals on Procore, or we might not have time to get through how to review the submittals, but we can get the workflow down and how to use the electronic software to our benefit, and what does that do for us. Actually, the most time I'll want you just to interact with a subcontractor and understand those relationships on a job site as well. So if I can get an intern to assist with a field problem in even a very minor way that gets them with the foreman of the plumbing company, electrical company, to interact and see what their world is like, that's something we want to get them exposed to. So then to answer your question on day one, what does that look like? It's either a full-time role, either in a pre-con department, which I'll call an office engineer, or you're out on site and we're expecting you to take a submittal log and collect and distribute through a workflow of those submittals. So I kind of day one is a dive right in, take the principles you've learned from being with us in the office and on site and communication with the trades and drive it home, certainly. And we're here to help all along. There's always mentoring. There's always a lifeline to reach out. And there's always going to be somebody to answer those questions. So it's not, it's not we're leaving you alone day one. It's you're with us, but we're going to expect that home run eventually to happen and master those skills.
I imagine much of you guys are investing in them as an intern. You guys are continuing that training, like when they come on full time as a project engineer or an office engineer, continuing a similar sort of training program to kind of get them up to being a project manager and further.
Absolutely. And I'll look for them to take a skill they've mastered and teach somebody else. We build a lot of scope abstracts with what we do. And, we'll start with a very basic scope abstract and call the sub and run through the questions. And then, once you've done 2 or 3 of those, I'll call you the college level master, but go teach the new intern how to do that as well. It's not, I always tell them it's not rocket surgery, right? You don't have to have every answer all the time, but understand the process and be able to explain that process and take that process 2 more steps farther than what you know. Certainly.
That's great too, because you don't really understand something until you try to explain it to somebody else. Like you may think you know it, and then if I have to explain it to you, I'm like, oh crap, I have to think about it again. And you probably learn it better than just by having to explain it to somebody than they're probably getting out of it. So reinforces that.
So one of the items we do see with the Gen Z interns is, unlike the millennial, the collaborative millennial, right? We're seeing a lot more independent, silo, task-oriented kind of a person come through with the Gen Z. So, and this is kind of across the board, not just construction, but you will see them kind of work in their own space and be competitive in that space, but be less collaborative with the other interns. So forcing people to move into a role where you are now teaching, because that's what we're going to expect of project managers. They're going to be teaching the interns, the project engineers, those tasks eventually. Getting them into that role is something I start early. I think that role needs to be practiced. I don't know why that is different with the Z's, but we're definitely seeing kind of that independent mindset of me and my computer and my submittal list, rather than a collaborative effort with other people that interact with it. Yeah.
So when it comes to your like training and onboarding and stuff, do you get a lot of people that are maybe trade specific or a specific discipline that have a lot of knowledge in it? And if they do you try to get like a more rounded approach, or do you kind of play to those strengths a little bit? I mean, what's your approach to that? Typically somebody has a little bit of a background somewhere. So
yeah, that's a great question. I mean, a lot of the just a lot of our current interns didn't have any real experience, let alone construction experience, not even real work experience prior to coming with us. So I would say that is a challenge. It's probably, we like to develop those good habits right away, right? Whereas if you do get, a kid that maybe did work somewhere else, how that company did things will carry over. Is that good or bad for what we're doing? Kind of depends. Just depends on the situation and the intern. But I think our goal would be to harness and create those habits in our system, rather than have to correct or align other habits with maybe how we like to see things done. Especially when it comes to treating clients, right? Your owner's reps on the job site and treating the subs. You can see a wide range of that in the field and how people are taught to do that. But kind of seeing our model and following that's what we want to see. I think that's the goal. Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of things. One, that the next generation, Gen Z, doesn't like to pick up the phone and call anybody. And two, they're more, what'd you call it? Kind of more solo.
Siloed.
Yeah, siloed.
Yeah.
I feel like an old man saying this, but what are things that we as the elder, I'm only 37, I'm not that old, but anyway, what can we do to help the next generation kind of become more into the industry? That's a really awful question, how I worded that, but how can we help them assimilate better into kind of the construction companies and kind of the environment that the construction industry is?
Yeah, that's a great question.
The $1 million question.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think the lure of the creating something is still attractive. I do see that. I see a very optimistic. The Gen Zs they're optimistic about what the future looks like and what the vision for their lives is. So I think if you can harness that power into what the vision of you're trying to do as a business and a team, I think that's where it meets. Especially like you see a vision of people that don't necessarily just want to be a part of a company, right? Like they're I think this varies from millennials, because when we were young, we just wanted the job coming out of the Great Recession, right? We're all just happy to have a job and get a paycheck. I think now
especially when you graduate in 2010.
Yeah, definitely. I think now you see a lot that they want the vision. They want to own the vision. So the company isn't just a company that builds buildings and collects payouts. It's a company that has a presence in creating the next generation of construction managers, or they have a presence in the wider kind of social network, or being part of something bigger than just the company. For instance, one of our clients is a nonprofit that provides housing for low income or distressed and transitional. How do we take our vision and be a part of what they're doing? That's a little bit bigger than us. I think it's important to always kind of, I don't want to call it you're selling that vision, but you're kind of living and taking your business to be a part of that vision as well. So it's bigger than just EOS builders and the buildings we build and the teammates we have. That's very limited. You have to kind of broaden the scope of what your business is trying to do. I think they're optimistic about a broader vision, and it's probably because every kid can change the world every day is what we've been taught in school, and that's very true, a true statement. But how you perceive yourself in that world and what you're doing day to day is where they need to align. There has to be a bigger vision there than just I'm here to do this job and maybe occasionally get screamed at by a subcontractor, right? But there has to be a bigger vision behind that, or there's not much staying power in what you're doing. I think.
I think so. I think a lot of industries are probably adopting. It may just be a generational shift too, right? Because as the boomers are getting older and retiring, kind of the millennials are taking more leadership roles, the Gen Zers are coming up. It seems like a lot of industries and a lot of, at least the big companies and stuff, they're kind of adopting a lot of those same type of bigger purpose, right? It's not just all about dollars and cents and bottom line. It's about what's the vision, what's the real purpose of the company, and how can you contribute to that to change the world. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. So the reality is too. I mean, even our generation, there's podcasts popping up all the time now, and they have been for quite some time. So I mean, everybody wants to make that impact. They want to make the industry better, make the world better. I mean, that's why we're doing this too, right? So it's almost like it's just trickling down to the next generation too, and maybe they're even going to the next level with it, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you'll see. I think there's a big shift going on of. A good education doesn't have to come with a degree. It doesn't have to be part of a 4-year program. It doesn't have to be X school somewhere that I went away for 4 or 5 years for. I think part of a good education now is literally what you guys are doing. It's the YouTube, it's the peer-to-peer sharing. Maybe we'll call yourselves social influencers at some level, but it is true that people have broadened their horizons where an education comes from. And who can teach these days and where you're going to find that information. So, even part of what you're doing is part of that next generation, certainly.
I mean, that's true. You can, I taught myself to be a project manager essentially off of Google and YouTube because I did civil engineering as my undergrad. And then I got into my first job and they were like, can you do a submittal? And I was like, I don't know what you just said. How about an RFI? I'm like, an RF what? Like, I don't know. I'm like, so you start throwing acronyms at you and these different definitions and like critical path schedule. Like, hold on, let me go with my Google real quick and figure out like, what does this mean? And and that was a decade ago or longer, right? And so it's just there's so much more information out there today.
It's true. Well, one of the things that does puzzle me about the Gen Zs is although they're digital pioneers with the iPhones and the iPads and their MacBooks. When a device driver needs updated or they need to add a printer to their computer, they're lost. Yeah. I mean, it's like they've never seen that before. It's amazing. So if you have a problem with software that needs updating, I'm running over to help, or one of the older guys is helping the younger folks now because there's been no, everything's just worked on an iPhone or an iPad before. There's no drivers to update, there's no rollback, there's no scans to happen. But so that has never, like, I'm always like amazed, like, really? You've never, okay, driver? Like, do you know what that does? No.
That's hilarious though, because you think about it, you just download an app and it just works. You don't have to.
I put in my Apple ID and it's supposed to work,
Yeah.
Well, hey, I mean, I totally get it. Basically, the easier you make the process work, the harder the problems become because you haven't gotten that background knowledge and that foundation to understand why and how the things are actually working behind the scenes. And so when there's a problem, you don't even know where to start.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges about teaching like scheduling software, right? You can probably teach someone how to put in tasks and start to finish and come up. But what does that really mean? Well, can you find your critical path? Do you understand what that means with a lag behind it? Do we know what float really means when we're out in the field? So, I've taken the approach that we're not even going to start with the software. We're going to write this out on a piece of paper and understand the theory first, because they'll pick up a piece of software pretty quick, but not really understand what it's doing. I think
you build a schedule and all your tasks are lined up, and they have like minus 14 days of float, and you're like, they don't know. Yeah, you got minus 14 days.
Looks good.
What the software said, it must be right. So you definitely have to understand it's the same reason like why when you're in elementary school you learn math by paper and pencil before you learn how to use a calculator, right? You have to understand
Certainly.
the basics before. I hated it in college because we did surveying and we had to do surveying with like the 1800s era surveying tools, right, to learn the basics and that sort of stuff. Before, like I see the total station in the corners, give me the total station. But we had to do every step of the way. But you touched on something a second ago I was wanting to ask you about, and this is a little bit different from the next generation, but actually, doing this podcast and doing the newsletter and doing all the LinkedIn stuff I do, I get people messaging me all the time, asking me questions. And some guy asked me the other day, he's probably about our age, but he's wanting to transition to construction management from a different industry, right? Kind of have a career change. And he was like, man, do I need to have like a 4-year degree in construction management or engineering? Or he's doing some sort of online program, certificate through Coursera, through, I forget what the major university, it was some major university, Columbia or somebody like that, who puts out a lot of content. And he's like, would that be good enough? And basically my thought was like, man, one, you're gonna have to start from ground zero, right? You're gonna have to start on, project engineering, probably take a pay cut from whatever you're doing down to that to start. And two, I mean, really nothing beats field experience at this point, right? Like he probably had some 4-year degree in some other industry unrelated, but kind of what are your thoughts on that? Am I off base with that, or?
No, that's a great question. I think the reintroduction of those soft skills is really missed. But if you can pick up, and what I'll call part of those soft skills is getting out and getting yourself into an intern position with whatever you want to do, and let that be your education. Because I think that education mixed with the people you will meet while being exposed to that environment is what's going to be your next step. You're going to follow those people, those people, how you interact. That's going to lead to your job in that field. So, my advice for that would be to skip out on that, that CM Masters program, or maybe make that a piece of what you're doing. But your primary objective should be to get a role in the field and get around the people.
Yeah.
That would be my best advice. And I haven't tested that yet with like something I've been working on is, can you take, a kid that's interested in construction out of high school that decides, undergraduate degree is right for him. Can you make him successful in our business model through a, let's call it a 3 or 4 year apprenticeship program, an internship program? Is that possible? I think it is. I really do. I haven't tested it yet, but one day I will with the right, we'll come across the right person for it. But I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible.
Well, and Evan, I just got to say, I think that's some solid advice. And especially because on my job site right now, we're having communication issues. We're all adults. We've all been in the industry for 15, 20, 30 years, and we're still having communication issues. You can't start the exposure to other people soon enough. It's invaluable getting the practice, dealing with people, working through issues together as a team collaboratively. You can't start it soon enough, in my opinion. So just to, again, agree with you, Evan. That's some great advice.
Yeah. No, one of the things we do at the end of every summer with our summer program is there's a capstone presentation, and every internship program does this. And it's sometimes about, what did I do this summer? And it can be about that. I don't put a cap on the topic, right? But I say you can pick any topic, because the topic's not what's important at the end of the day. It's important that you stand up and talk in front of people and present yourself for 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And you need to do that, like 100 times before you can stand up in that contentious owners meeting and bring everybody to the table to solve those issues, right? So, and I see the slow growth presentation after presentation with some of the interns, that they slowly get better. And like I tell them, every opportunity you have to stand up in front of people, do it. I don't care if it's at the Thanksgiving dinner table with your extended family. I don't care if it's in a class, whatever, that the teacher calls on somebody to present something, church, wherever, it doesn't matter. Stand up and get comfortable looking people in the eye, presenting your ideas, and taking and receiving feedback and solving problems. Because that's what a construction manager does at the end of the day. I mean, you're going to stand around a group of people with a potentially angry set of subcontractors at some points, or an upset owner's rep, and still have to convey information and solve those problems. So I think early and often, don't ever stop and get in front of people as much as possible is what I tell them. And they don't, it's not I know public speaking isn't comfortable, but particularly with the tech Gen Z generation, it is particularly uncomfortable for them. I don't know if we can even compare them to our, I want to say we weren't that comfortable in our first owners meetings or our first presentations, but it's definitely an added challenge for this generation. Certainly. Yeah.
We had an intern with us on this project all summer. I was kind of his mentor, right? As we went through his internship and stuff. And at the end, we don't have a formal internship program. We're kind of building out that program. So they basically said, like, what do you want me to do with them? They're like, whatever you think's right. I'm like, cool, I'll figure it out. So we had a good time. I think he learned a lot. But at the end, like, I wanted him to do a presentation like that. So we brought everybody into our office, and I basically just said, do you want to do a final presentation? He's like, yeah, sure. And that's basically all we talked about. And like, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, this thing could be, the dude killed it. He was awesome. He did such a great job. Like, I was like blown away by how he did. It was awesome.
Yeah. I always tell him, like, listen, in front of us, our team, we love the heck out of you, right? Like, stumble, fall over, laugh at yourself. Now's the time to get comfortable doing that. Right. We're not gonna pounce on you. We're gonna make fun of you some, right, for your mess ups, but that's part of the game. But get the experience underway, however you get it.
Right.
Certainly. Yeah.
That's great.
So what are some of the other soft skills? You were mentioning, like, you really need to concentrate on building out those soft skills first and that sort of stuff. So, like, what are some other soft skills that you think the next generation coming in or maybe struggling with kind of in this industry?
Yeah. I keep going back to the phone call and I'll call it the cold call, even though we don't in our business, right? It is a cold call when you call a sub, you're looking for a proposal, but it's not really a cold, you're not really selling it, but you're selling them on the fact that this project and us as a general contractor are worthy of you to spend time putting together a proposal that will be taken seriously and will lead to a potential job for you, right? So you are selling at the end of the day. And you deal with the same group of subs. I don't care what town you're in, right? You're going to come across the same fire sprinkler guys and the same masons on every job you bid. So get to know them. Yeah. Hey, Matt, what did hey, it's Monday. How was the football game Friday? Did you have a chance to watch that? Follow up from your previous conversation. If it's a Friday and you're calling, so, hey, Matt, what are you doing this weekend? Are you going fishing again this weekend or what? Are you going to work on that bid? Right? Just create that rapport, because when they see your name come up, they'll and they know your name, they'll answer that phone call rather than from the other general contractor that, Steve, the intern's bugging them 12 times a day, but Steve, stumble bumbles on the phone, doesn't ever care who they are, never asks them about their family. Yeah. So the more you can get across to people and they know you care a little bit more than just, send me your dang proposal now, it's due today. I think goes a heck of a long way. And that's, they're always amazed. Well, they always answer for you, Evan, right? Or they always text you back. I go, I know, but I've put in the time. Like, I go have beers with the guy. I know who he is. I've done a couple projects with him. We have a true relationship. When I text him, he knows I'm asking something serious, right? Because he knows me and we've gone down that road. So, and I've got one intern now that's taken it to a whole new level. I mean, he's got like CIA level notes on every subcontractor, right? Okay, Steve, I know Steve was going fishing or he was playing golf. So on Monday, he's on the phone with him. Were the fish biting, whatever it is. So the more they can do that and get out and meet those folks, I'm never afraid to take the interns to my owners' meetings. I'll take them to the owner's office to deliver samples with submittals, whatever they can do to see those interactions and that rapport, get them exposed to it as early as possible. It pays huge dividends. They'll pick it up, and it'll become real for them in their experience, certainly. Yeah.
That's right on.
Yeah.
That's great. Hey, I'm really sorry, guys. I got to split another appointment here. So,
all right.
Great talking to
you. Leave it out. I had the perfect meme. I was about to send it to you.
I knew that's why I got to go.
Should I change it up this week and make Evan explain the meme?
Hey, even better.
All right. Since Kyle, you're bailing on us.
See you guys.
I understand.
Have fun.
So,
Good
Evan,
talking to you, man.
Good talking to you, Kyle. Thanks.
He's gone. So if you're willing, we usually play a game where I surprise Kyle with a meme, and he has to describe the meme for everybody who's listening to the podcast and not watching the podcast.
Okay.
So here we go. I'll let you play.
All right, let's do it. So it's just describe what's going on. 10 years of work experience before the age 22. I love it. Well, this is where I want to take my internship program. You see, this is the future of your company. You gotta start really young. Get them that exposure out the job site here. Yeah. This looks like my daughter's kindergarten class coming to one of our jobs.
I got boys that are in kindergarten, and I want to bring them out to the job site. I mean, they've been out here when they were little, but they were too little to get around, and so anyway, they're a little older. But
I love it.
So since Kyle had a bail, what it is, it's a picture of it's like a kindergarten class in oversized PPE made for fat people like me, and they're walking around a job site, and I guess the foreman, the superintendent, or project manager, somebody. He's got a shiny hard hat. He must be the PM.
Yeah.
He says when jobs want you to have 10 years of work experience before the age of 22. And so, anyway, that's my favorite part of the podcast is make Kyle do that every time.
Okay, that works out good. I like that.
But so that kind of goes with your thing, though. So instead of bringing in a high school kid to give him a 4-year apprenticeship program, you can bring in 10-year-olds and give them.
We'll start in middle school. Why not? Think about the level of experience they'll have when they graduate high school or college. Would be amazing. It would be amazing.
I mean, that's kind of where I got my start, was in high school. During the summers, I worked for my dad he did underground utilities, directional boring and trenching and installing fiber optics and that sort of stuff. And so I spent the summers with him working. And really what that meant was I had a shovel and I was digging potholes behind a backhoe, so we didn't hit any water lines or anything like that. And so that was kind of my first taste of it. And then I realized, I don't want to be running a shovel my whole life. So I went to college and tried to do something different. But I think having that early experience is, always good.
Yeah. Well, you certainly see that with military recruitment, right? The best military recruits are kids that grew up as military brats, and I mean they've been exposed to that military lifestyle and what that means and how to interact. And it's not, it's just a transition for them. Right? It's almost like a natural transition because they've been exposed to it for so long, rather than somebody that has never seen that experience, never been part of it. It's a different lifestyle. But yeah, I mean, that's, a military brat is basically getting an internship in, a military lifestyle. Certainly. Yeah.
I agree. So what do you think some other companies can do it's definitely, what'd you say a minute ago? It's not till 2046 until we're going to get more people in the work. I don't even know how they even project that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're seeing now is clearly the boomers are retiring. The generation behind them probably, are presidents and executives, right? Or Gen X's. And that's a small generation as well. So the labor shortage we're seeing across the board, not just in construction, is going to be with us. It's going to be here. It's not going to get better. Maybe the market will fluctuate with, ups and downs, and in those downs, the labor supply will settle out. But, when the market's busy, it's going to be a constrained labor market across the board. That's just going to be part of our next 20 years, unfortunately. But how companies react to that and how we recruit and create our vision is going to be the challenge. And the companies that figure that out and recruit well and maintain those relationships will be very successful. And those that don't, unfortunately, will probably struggle.
That's my thought on a lot of things is, I think in a free market like that, the ones who adapt to struggles, always will be the ones that, excel and survive. And you always see these companies that build up and then they can't, survive the the change of the world, and they collapse, and then another company will come up and then they collapse. And so I think we're definitely going to see that. I think we're at a tipping point right now in the industry with a lot of things. And so some of the big dogs, some of the big players, they don't continue to adapt. They may, fall off. And so.
Yeah. Well, and construction is going to compete with, you're seeing a lot of reshoring of industry and manufacturing, back from Asia, right? Now you're competing for that labor pool with industries that maybe 15 years ago, we're all offshored, or maybe for the last, 20, 30 years, we're all offshored, and now they're back here and they're local, and that labor pool is going to be real competitive.
You seeing any? Oh, go ahead. Do you see any sort of innovations or kind of technological changes that are going to help? Because obviously, if AI was perfect, you could have an AI project manager, right, running your project, and have one less person you'd have, or an AI project engineer running some middles, right? And do you see any sort of? That's maybe in 2046. Maybe that's why I think we're going to be helped out. But do you see any sort of things kind of like that coming down the pike that's going to help with the shortage?
I've seen a couple ideas, but nothing that I've seen that will help us really. I've seen a couple AI powered, machines that hang and tape and finish drywall. I don't know. I'm not sold on them. It didn't look right to me. I can't imagine 20 of those running through one of our job sites, but maybe I don't know. That is something I've kind of tasks our younger folks with. Let's look at that. How can that help our business model? If we understand what that AI is going to do to our market and our business, are we going to lead the pack going forward? Is there anything there? There may be nothing there for us. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like there would be, though. A lot of other industries, you're seeing medicine pick up on AI. Obviously, anything tech and code related is going to be pick up and be heavy AI. Legal, you're hearing legal stuff is going to lean heavily on AI reports and data mining. But what does that do for our industry? That'd be a great topic for your next show. I don't know. I'd have to really dig into that one. Yeah,
that's cool. I kind of went down a rabbit hole of AI recently, of sorts, right? And I thought, like, man, it'd be really cool. And the guy was talking about, it's like in like 3 or 5 years, every profession out there is going to have an AI sidekick. As they're like, attorneys will have an AI sidekick that'll help them do whatever, writing letters or whatever it is, right? I was like, man, how could construction managers have an AI sidekick? Yeah. And then I saw this thing. It was like, I think it was called like Chat PDF, where you can upload PDFs and ask it questions. I was like, dude, if I could upload like contracts and specs or drawings and ask it questions, right? Like, what is the testing requirement for concrete? And type it in there, and it'd spit out the answer. Yeah. And I tried that, and it was absolute garbage. Like, I first started with like, give me all the testing requirements required for steel, and it just spit out garbage. And then I went all the way, like, it was on the front page, right? It says like, the project owner is blank, right? It gave me the owner, and I said, who is the owner of this project? And it gave me some off the wall answer. And I'm like, this sucks. So
I don't know. I feel like where you're going with that is something, whoever does duplicate their efforts with some sort of AI assistant will be, more successful. But what that looks like, I don't, I don't know. Maybe it is a pure just data mining of a spec book, like what you're saying. I'd hate to see it left there. I'm thinking more along the lines of like, when you get a set of drawings through the door, there's always that checklist, right? Your civil checklist. Let's check out the sewer inverts with what's on the civil, what's on the plumbing. Like, can you turn that checklist stuff onto a set of drawings and let it be? Can it be successful doing that? And I think that's where it would take it. Almost like a clash detection level AI report. Can it do that? I don't. I would think that's something that we'll see, but I don't know. That's a great question.
I thought about that too. It's like in one day, maybe not in the near future or in the far future. Everyone's going to BIM modeling and 3D modeling and all that. It's like, are we going to do away with 2-dimensional drawings, or is it going to be like, here's your BIM model, go build it, right? And bid off the BIM. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to get to that stage. That'd be an interesting shift.
Something I saw, and it might have been a link from one of your articles, but was some sort of like AI powered progressing tool. I don't know if that was, I thought that was from one of your things I clicked on, but I went to the website and I checked in on it, and it was like it sold itself as like a job site 3D camera that would create your production for you, like, and let you monitor in real time. And I was like, man, how does that? I don't know. I don't know. My head can't put that together, but it seems like if you figured it out, that would be very cool. You know?
That may be maybe that company dispersed where they send out the 3D cameras, or they'll come out and take 360-degree cameras, photos of your job site, and then they send it back and they upload it against the BIM model and see how it compares.
Okay.
And then they actually have a team of engineers and architects in some office somewhere that'll look at it too, and look at it and compare it towards the specs and like throw red flags if say you're supposed to get ductwork up tight to your structure and you got a whole bunch of conduits right here and already installed and your ductwork's not there, and they'll say, hey, you got a problem, I don't know how you're missing your ductwork and I don't know how you're going to get it in there. So kind of that second set of like QA and kind of intuitive steps. The idea is they got all that human input right now, and they're trying to train the machine, and so it's a hybrid with AI and human. And I guess the end game is to slowly drop the humans off as the machine gets smarter and smarter and have it all machine led, right? So there's some people working on some really cool stuff out there.
Yeah, that is what I saw, and I was thinking I'd love to see that on a job. I don't know if there's a job in Phoenix that is, but I'd love to go by and kind of poke around and see how it works and see what the result. It's probably like a beta mode right now, right? But
yeah, they do some stuff. They're based out of London. They've got a U.S. branch, but they're based out of UK. But I think they're expanding more into the States.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, I could see AI powered, forklifts running around the job site, stuff like that. Like we in Phoenix, we have the Waymo, the self-driving cars that run around, kind of like a self-driving Uber.
Oh, really?
But yeah, you could have those on a job site. I wouldn't see why not. Maybe putting blocks of brick, delivering them to the mason's work, from the storage site to where he's working. That would be a very easy application for something like that. I don't know.
All kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you sent me a picture yesterday with a whole 2 pages full of notes. Is there anything else on your notes that you want to hit on that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
Something that I came across, and this is not my original idea, but I've heard the comparison of Gen Z to the Millennials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this, I'm going to quote, this is Peter Zeihan. I don't know if you've come across his work, but he does a lot of studies in demographics, and he has a recent book out that's a really interesting read. It's a lot to do with what's going on with demographics and the change in the economy and the reshoring manufacturing. But he said that the Gen Z, if you think about it, is whereas the Millennials were like Harry Potter, right? We were collaborative. We were flying high around with our brooms and with our buddies, solving problems and doing cool stuff. The Gen Z is more like the Hunger Games. It's a survival type scenario where you want the best for yourself, and you're not willing to collaborate with others to get that end result. And some of the data that's out there of how the Gen Z is interacting, and mostly interacting with technology rather than being collaborative with other people, is leading that way. So it will be interesting to see how the Hunger Games plays out on our job sites, as if it wasn't Hunger Games enough on some of our project sites,
100%. And that's what, man, I wonder why that is really. I wonder, you think it's due because this kind of the social media generation? You think that's playing into anything of kind of like a lot of influencer type stuff, and I want to be all about myself? I don't even know.
I think it has to do. This is my personal take on it. I think it has to do with their interaction with technology is a one person game, right? Even on a text message or video call, you're not really interacting with another person in the flesh.
Right.
So if things go south, you end that DM stream, or you don't text back, or you hit cancel on the video call, or whatever it is. I think it's just part of that. I don't think it's much more. I think it's just what's a learned behavior through probably their interactions with technology is what I see. That's my take on it. But
I mean, wife talked about this because we have kindergartners, and like just in our neighborhood, I know there's kids all in our neighborhood, but like you don't see them out playing. You don't see them like riding their bikes around the neighborhood. You don't see, like, I remember when I was a kid, you knew where everybody in the neighborhood was because there would be a pile of bicycles in someone's front yard, right? And that's where all the kids are. They're in that house, and like you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why that. I don't know why that is. Maybe people are scared to go outside now, but hopefully not. Hopefully it's just the heat. Here in Phoenix, you don't see many people outside in the summer, but come November, everybody will kind of emerge from their hibernation and be back. So
yeah,
hopefully that's what that is. Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe it's not a complete generational change. But.
Right. I know.
Well, Evan, I appreciate you joining us, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Sorry Kyle had to bounce before he left you high and dry on the meme game. So
no problem. We'll do some research and we'll get back together on that AI podcast, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be a fun conversation. So
you got it.
Anyway, man, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Evan.